On this episode, we talk about Luke Harper on Team Authority, the Focus on Ryback, the Xavier Woods stable, Grumpy Cat, a Byte That giveaway, and more now on Byte That. Welcome everybody to episode 64!
Oh my god! Yes!
Yes! Yes! Of Byte That, the somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which have got to be RKO Vines. Check out that space one, it's pretty freaking awesome. Thanks for checking out the podcast. Remember, we are available every single Tuesday night. You can check us out on YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iTunes, and also check us out on social media by searching Byte That Cast. My name is Juan Velez. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and as always, I'm joined by the entire cast. First, all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, as of November 11th, Mr. Ryan McNulty.
Juan, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but there is a chance that I may miss next week's episode.
No.
Impossible.
No.
Yes. I am actually going to be moving, so if everything goes according to plan, I should have internet and everything up and running before next week's show, but just saying if I'm missing, that's probably why.
You're Mr. Perfect Attendance, man, so it's happening. So I don't care if you do it by phone or something, it's going to happen. However, a guy that Keith and I trade off every once in a while, from the Double F in Manitoba, Mr. Keith Poshik.
I'm putting you on the spot in a moment here. That Nintendo 64 video, there's a gift that he gets that he just shits all over. And he's like, just goes like, oh, that's cool, but I got a Nintendo 64. I'm like that today. I'm that gift. Do you remember what that is? Because I don't.
It was like a car or something.
Something like that. I'm like that car today.
A toy
Poor
car,
family.
obviously.
Poor family. I mean, think about that. You're like enthusiastic about,
Like, I got him his first car.
The economical situation. Yeah, like they put that thing on layaway for 6 months, and then it's like, you know what? The N64 is what matters.
If anyone doesn't know what the heck we're talking about, YouTube N64 kid.
Where have you been? It's the internet, but
it is an old. That's like ancient history of memes,
remember,
though.
we're
You gotta
old
understand.
True. That's like the beginning of the social medias of the interwebs. But we're a wrestling podcast, so let's backpedal a little bit and talk about Monday Night Raw, which, although it wasn't live, we actually felt like it was a live show because we didn't realize it wasn't live until like halfway during the show. I'm trying my best to sort of not really go to wrestling news websites like before Raw just to avoid the spoilers. So it was kind of nice just getting that experience. Did you guys know beforehand it was going to be taped or not?
Well, the second I saw it was in the UK, I knew it was taped,
exactly.
'cause I figured they wouldn't be going to a show at like 2 a.m, whatever the heck it is.
Pretty much.
But overall, I think this is definitely one of the better Raw shows we've had in a while. Usually we start off with a specific topic about Raw, but I want to get your overall reactions because we watched it together, and I think our consensus was that it was a very, very packed show. It had a little bit of everything. We'll be talking about Luke Harper and all that stuff, but Ryan, taking it to you first, how did you come off this Raw?
I thought it was a really good show. Usually you think with the UK shows, sometimes because they're taped and everything, they seem a little bit more phoned in, but I think this is definitely one of the best they've done overseas. And I really enjoy lately where it seems like every episode of Raw, like there's sort of one character, one superstar that it's built around. And I really liked how the show was kind of built around Cena, forming his team, even, the Authority forming their team. And I thought the fact that they kept kind of going to segments about them building their teams, it all made sense. It had a start and a finish. I just feel like it was an overall like well built around show.
Mm-hmm. And you could even go into like a more specific superstar that they built it around, because really that entire episode was about Ryback. Like what was he in? Like 5 or 6 segments?
Yeah, and it was crazy because it was very much like a TV show. It felt like what you mentioned, Ryan. They were building it up about specific things. It wasn't just like random matches or like sort of throwing stuff around, because usually these tape shows, they don't have this type of importance. And Yeah, I mean, Ryback just came back. We've known he's had a very rocky career ever since he became Ryback after being Skip Sheffield in the Nexus. And it was interesting because first we got to see a possible heel turn, so everybody got talking about that. But then obviously we saw how Raw concluded, so sort of some things got switched around. And how did you guys sort of feel about that? The way that it was very much like a TV show in the sense that it started with something and it actually concluded with that thing that we started. So we got like one narrative throughout the entire show.
Well, if you go back and actually read the spoilers that were brought out before last night's Raw, none of them mention that swerve at the end of Raw. So I don't even think the live audience got to see that, which is like, I think that's how they made it. So there was that swerve at the end. And that's cool.
Thank you for fixing that. No, but it was interesting because they were spoiling a lot of this stuff on the live WWE Twitter account, so a lot of people were upset. Even if you went on Squared Circle, they were just flat out posting pictures. Even when Ryback spinebuster John Cena, WWE flat out tweeted a picture of him doing that. And it's like, what the hell? I mean, that is a big segment. That's something huge because obviously he came back as a babyface. So the next thing you do is tweet that picture. Obviously, it's out of context, but it's pretty clear that something like that happened. So, are you happy with the Ryback situation? You know, we've talked about avoiding Ryback being just this huge squashing machine. So, he's getting character development. He's getting all that stuff. I don't know if you guys saw Superstars. He broke out of the tag team he had with Curtis Axel officially. So, it's not like it never happened. It was a pretty cool segment. So, they're giving the guy time.
Do you mean Superstars or main event?
It was on Superstars. They got two different shows, remember, so.
All right. Well, you guys ever watch the show Lost?
No.
I watched season 1, sir.
Okay. Well, WWE in some ways has kind of reminded me of that, where it seems like each episode seems to be...
monster?
Yes, there's a smoke monster, but each one also seems to be kind of built around a different character each time. Like a couple of weeks ago, we got like a Randy Orton episode, and then we had like a Dean Ambrose episode and a John Cena episode. So obviously, this was the Ryback episode. And I thought it was really well done because my fear with Ryback was that when he first came back a couple of weeks ago, that they were regressing his character. That he was literally going back to where he was in 2012, just squashing people, no other character development, literally saying the same things he was saying back then. So this was a breath of fresh air. They were giving a lot more, speaking like mic time for Ryback, and
he's a human being now.
Yes,
yeah.
He had a character. He's not going to just all willy-nilly join up with John Cena and be buddies with him. There was some friction there before. He joins the Authority. He's got his own motives. He's his own person. And it's a breath of fresh air.
I mean, feel free to disagree, but it almost feels like Ryback is getting the Roman Reigns push right now.
In many ways, you could say that. I guess they need a powerhouse type character, so I wouldn't say Roman Reigns would have been in the same spot, but it's definitely a situation of they needed a bigger guy because you have, Seth Rollins, you have Dean Ambrose and all that stuff, but then you have this bigger guy, which is the big guy. So I think that works out perfectly. And if anything, they know that he can be a very diverse character. If you look at him on Twitter and all that stuff, the guy can be hilarious. He can be sarcastic. Just let him be himself. I won't say it, okay? It's 3 weeks in a row. I won't make the reference, but
let it
being
die.
himself is all that he needs to do, man.
You didn't let it die. God darn it.
So I got to bring up the thing that happened afterwards because, of course, we thought that he was going to be part of Team Authority, but then Keith, a guy that I know you love a little bit, got a video package halfway during the show, like during the Dolph Ziggler match, and then Raw ends with Dolph Ziggler getting pushed down into a sofa. And then we get Luke Harper, man. So how are you feeling about that?
It's awesome.
Clever, by the way.
Well played on that
Thank
one.
you.
But no, it's awesome. They're actually going to potentially do something with Luke Harper. And I've said it before, my biggest fear is that they're just going to fall into obscurity because they moved away from Bray Wyatt. But they're actually investing in Luke Harper, and Luke Harper deserves investing in.
Investments, people.
Exactly, investing. It's the way to go.
And it was pretty cool
Check
because
your 401ks. I don't know what that is.
Let's just keep going. Why not? But
you're gonna have a horrible retirement, Keith.
Probably. I won't make it that far. Don't worry.
Live hard, die young. #. No, but with the Luke Harper thing, it was interesting to me how Triple H and Stephanie McMahon were sort of looking at him like, oh my God, we have this guy here, that type of stuff. And does it seem weird that, the clothing is the same? I'm not expecting like any physical change because, it hasn't been a very long time. But I'm just wondering as to what they can do with the character when his outfit, his persona, is he just going to be a lackey, or is he going to be a little bit more of a human being?
Does he really need to change, though? Like, just think of Luke Harper free to reign his own chaos. Like, he'll just go beat the crap out of somebody, and then, like, he'll do the authorities' dirty work, but he's kind of doing it for himself.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, he doesn't need a physical appearance change, but...
No.
He's obviously got to talk or something, maybe, I'm not saying like cut a 1-minute promo, but at least a couple more references. He definitely seems to be more human now. I'm just wondering how far they're going to go with that.
But the authority could be his humanity in that way. He could just stand there, do his eye bulge, and then Triple H does all the talking for him.
He could basically become what Kane kind of used to be, like the mercenary. I still don't know why he's kind of split from Bray Wyatt, because, like, him and Rowan could have still kind of been connected to him and, like, done what they're doing now. It just seems so weird. But, I'm okay with it because Luke Harper's so talented that, I know he's going to knock it out of the park. And even if he just is, like, another mercenary for the Authority, he's someone who can basically...
He can play the
Mark
role.
Henry, is probably going to go off and do his own thing after this Survivor Series thing. But maybe Harper stays with the Authority, and plus, like, his moves, like the big boot and the clothesline, it's so devastating. It really works with kind of just taking people out when the Authority needs it done.
No, and we have to think about the fact that maybe he could have been aligned with Bray Wyatt, but obviously Bray Wyatt's going to do his own thing now. And he doesn't want to be play second fiddle to anybody like Luke Harper's character. And even though he's technically doing that with the Authority, it's different because the Authority is at the top of the food chain. So he's associating himself with the very top of the company.
Did anyone else read the post-Raw thread on Reddit? Someone kind of brought back up that whole Bray Wyatt taking down the Authority theory, where they were talking about the whole Kane situation, and then now
It'll
Harper's
never die, man.
Yeah, Harper's teaming with the Authority, so maybe like he's got people on the inside.
That'll be our next song about Let It Go. That Bray Wyatt theory.
The ultimate slow burn.
Not gonna happen. But talking about Survivor Series, something that we left off last week is that Vince McMahon came out, talked about the whole network being free for the month of November, but the other thing was the stipulation about the Survivor Series match, which is basically that if the Authority loses, they lose their authority. So I'm still not really too clear about what would happen. So are we going to get a general manager? Like, what would happen in that scenario? But I sort of wanted to bring that up to get your feedback about, do you see the Authority losing? And if so, what would their role be? Would Triple H somehow try to justify? I mean, he's still the COO. I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've heard rumors about Stephanie McMahon being pregnant or something, and that's why they're ending the Authority. I'm going to completely reject that for now because, pregnancy rumors have
that doesn't go too
not
well with you.
panned out before. So I'm just throwing that aside. I just feel like they wanted the stakes to be high for Survivor Series, so I get that. But what would it be like without the Authority? I would assume both of them would just go off TV for a while.
Yeah.
We'd probably get a general manager. Maybe Brad Maddox comes back. Maybe, Bad News Barrett comes back and becomes GM. Who knows?
Maybe we get a laptop again.
Yes, maybe we get a laptop while they stall for time and try and find somebody to
what
fill
about
the
a
role.
tablet?
Yeah, I know. You got to get with the times, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty easy. They both go off TV. Triple H can come back for whatever dream matches he wants to do, whatever WrestleMania main event he wants, or whatever. And they have a new GM.
So about the match itself, we pretty much have both teams set. We have Team Cena, which is Ziggler, Big Show, Sheamus, and probably Ryback. I mean, the problem is we record on Tuesday, so obviously it can be confirmed or not.
Well, they said Swagger, got like beaten down or something, and he's not going to be able to compete. I don't know if they officially announced Ryback on the team, but it looks like it's going to be that way. And Swagger was just poor Swagger, just kind of like a decoy.
Yeah, but the second you heard Jack Swagger was on Team Cena, you're like, is he now? Okay.
It's like, who? Oh, that dude that used to be ECW champion. He used to be ECW champion, world champion.
Yeah,
What's going on?
Yeah, think about this. Ezekiel Jackson was the last ECW champion.
EC Dub. EC Dub. But, yeah, so that's Team 1. Then Team 2, we got Rollins, Henry, Harper, Kane, and Rusev. So do you like that balance? Are you looking forward to the match? Because we've made reference to the past that Survivor Series elimination matches haven't been all that entertaining. But here we have essentially the top of the food chain, all of them in one match, with the exception of guys like Ambrose and Wyatt.
Really, poor Seth Rollins. Like, take the biggest people in the company and then Seth Rollins, like biggest in girth, and then just throw them into a match together.
That's true. I didn't really think of it like that. He's the only one who's not, like, enormous. But you know what? It works. No, this year, obviously, Survivor Series, I probably look forward to it more than I have in a long time. Because for once, there's an actual stipulation for the Survivor Series match. And, second, they've actually been building it right. Like, I like how the teams have been built at least over a couple of weeks. If you've ever seen the movie Wayne's World, they're like making this big plan towards the end of the movie, and they just say, "Oh, and we're gonna need some help," and then everyone in the restaurant just stands up and they're like, "We'll help." So generally, that's what it usually seems like with these Survivor Series teams, like just people come out of the woodwork and join the team. But they've actually kind of slowly built it, and like a situation with Ryback, he was gonna join this team, now he goes to the other team. Like it's more than just a simple, all these baby faces just join up in a second. They actually took their time to build it.
It's interesting you say that, because really, like, this is the Survivor Series gimmick, right? And they've never really done anything with it for the last couple of years. It would kind of be the equivalent of, let's say, there was an Intercontinental title elimination chamber match. Sounds crazy, right? Well, that's basically what they've done with Survivor Series for the last couple of years. And it's cool that that match actually has meaning once again.
Interesting comparison when you put it that way. It's definitely interesting because it's the name of the pay-per-view, yet it's the match that gets the least amount of importance, considering the pay-per-view was basically built upon that match.
When was the last important Survivor Series when the winner got to be GM for a week way back when?
I would even go back farther and say the one that was like Team Stone Cold versus Team Eric Bischoff. That was probably the last important one where something meaningful was on the line.
Yeah, that's the one I pretty much had in mind, where if Stone Cold lost, he would be gone from WWE. He left that beer can, I think it was like in the middle of the ring or something like that. It mattered. It furthered the storyline by the conclusion of the match. So for those listening, I want to know, do you like the teams? Who would you pick? Are you sad that Swagger's not in there? Are you crying deep at night? Let us know. Send us a
that guy
tweet
who's
with that.
Jack Swagger's his favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
Please let us know what you feel about.
How are you doing, man? We can support you, okay? We are here 24/7 for you, especially Keith, friend.
Exactly.
So a lot of this stuff leads to a very interesting conversation, because notice that we're talking about main events, we're talking about all that stuff, but there's no champion in sight. A couple of months ago, we were thinking, yeah, Brock Lesnar's definitely going to be at Survivor Series. It's one of the big four. That's not the case. Royal Rumble may not even be the case. We don't know when Brock Lesnar's going to come back. So has this forced WWE into really focusing on these specific characters, kind of like you've mentioned, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the pay-per-views, I've been more excited for these last two pay-per-views than other ones in a while, because they seem to have fallen in a default formula for years of just, we build the title match, it's this guy versus this guy, he beats him, and the next month he faces somebody new. So I really enjoy that, Hell in a Cell, the main event, was an actual long-term built feud with two fresh guys, and they tore it up, and now we're getting one of the best built Survivor Series matches in years. So really, the champion being off TV has forced them to actually do something different and forced them to build the show around characters instead of titles. And I think it's working out pretty well so far.
Exactly. It takes a crutch and basically kicks it from under their legs. You made a comment last week, Juan, about like when we were talking about story development in wrestling, how no matter what you do, it always ends with people going 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 in a ring. Well, one of the other tropes in wrestling is you can build this big feud, but it always ends with a championship. So you're always going to have these big guys going against each other, and it's always going to conclude with a title match. Well, now it doesn't have to, which leaves more room to build and like work with crazy new things. And it's been awesome.
Begs the question, you know what? Let's just get rid of all the championships. That people, why wrestle? You know, there's no purpose. Why get into that?
What is life?
Why are you going to physically harm yourself? So it's it's an interesting conversation for the future, sir. Now, something that I think it has become a weekly thing. This possible faction about Xavier Woods. We talked about it last week. I think it's been like the past 20 episodes of the podcast have at some point featured Xavier Woods, Big E Langston, Kofi Kingston. Is this going to happen? Now, lo and behold, we got the same video package that we got last week with Woods, except Kofi Kingston, he's getting a character change, people. After how long? Since his career in ECW. Think about that. Since his career in ECW,
he was
changing.
Still the same person in ECW.
No, but he lost the Jamaican accent in that process at least. So there was something. Maybe just an accent, but there's something happening. A new day really is happening.
It's weird.
Yeah.
But I'm also really happy to see that they are actually doing something with these guys. You know, they're going to form their own thing. It's not the Nation of Domination. It's their own identity. It's got their own thing to it. So I'm happy about that. It seems like it's going to be original. I don't know how it's going to apply to their, wrestling gimmick. It's if they have a choir coming out with them or something every time. But, we don't really know if they're going to try and push, like, the motivational speaker thing. I think we talked
last week. Those matches with Adam Rose were going to be crowded. Think about that.
Oh god.
Yeah. Oh my god. What if we had the party, the Rosebuds versus the
choir.
New Day choir?
Oh my god.
That's a hell of a Survivor Series match. Maybe they can get that going in time.
That's almost a Royal Rumble by itself. But so there's been 2 video packages for the 2 people that have been in this stable. That leaves potentially 1 more video package for another man. And that could potentially be the best video package ever, with Big E Langston doing the whole, it's a new day thing. And that's what I'm excited for.
It's a new generation. Wait, it's not Legacy? Oh, okay. No, but for the Big E Langston thing, with just Big E, cut out the Langston. Some of you may not follow him, may not follow him on Instagram. They may not have seen him in NXT. He can pretty much play this off to perfection. He's been very charismatic. The problem is his WWE debut was horrible. I mean, who remembers the fact that he closed out Raw by taking out John Cena, seemingly being the next big guy? Then, like 2 weeks later, everybody completely forgot about that.
That is the best debut in wrestling history, sir. Because not only did he take out John Cena, but then AJ Lee's theme played at the end of Raw. So there's this big hulking dude with AJ Lee's theme. It's the best debut. If you haven't seen it, you need to.
Random thought. Tensai also beat John Cena when he first came back. And after, what's going on? See, so anybody that just comes back to WWE or something, just don't.
You mean a
do
new
Cena
person that goes against John Cena and ends up going nowhere after a couple of months? That's never happened before.
Well, when you basically have someone come in and basically do one of the biggest things you can do, the only other place to go is down.
Yeah.
Down,
Curtis Axel says hi.
So to summarize the whole possible stable, so say it is Big E, we get a video package next week. It's very hard not to play the stereotype character thing card, because it's very much like, really, I mentioned this last week, it seems like this is too easy Just put three guys together that happen to be African American, then they happen to have a choir, then they happen to just do all these things that are very stereotypical. That's been done in the wrestling in past. Maybe not this exact way, but just how can this succeed? I don't get it, because if it didn't work with Bo Dallas, his motivational character, what's it going to take to get three guys with essentially that character over?
Factions, I feel like usually have a leg up against, maybe just an individual, because they can work off of all of their strengths and weakness. They can hide their weaknesses, play off the strengths. You've got Kofi Kofi and Xavier Woods as like the athletic in-ring workers, Biggie as the powerhouse, and then on the mic you got Xavier Woods. And Biggie, for that matter. He's, they don't let him talk that much, but he's actually pretty good when he gets the chance. So, we don't know what their character is going to be yet. We don't know if it's going to be more the Bo Dallas thing, or if it's going to be more of the Reverend Devon thing, or if it's going to be completely different.
I just realized they missed a golden opportunity. May they rest their souls. We once had 3MB. We could have had 3MC. Three-man choir.
Wow.
Could these guys end up like that? 3MB, if people remember, they actually won 5 or 6 matches before they became jobbers.
Quick anecdote about this. I got a terrible headache a couple of days ago because Jinder Mahal's wrestling in Puerto Rico right now. Get this. He is known as 3MB Jinder Mahal. And it gave me a headache because I'm like, so he's a 3-man, 1-man band? What? The video packages, everything. 3MB Jinder Mahal. What does that even mean?
Don't hinder Jinder, dog.
Yeah.
We need 3 of them, man. So before we split off to a very epic announcement in the show, we gotta bring up yet another epic announcement. Now, I know that you guys, breathe deeply, contain yourselves, because next week on Raw, Keith, are you ready?
My body is ready.
Grumpy Cat is going to be the guest host of Monday Night Raw, man. Are you hyped? Are you hyped, Keith? Are you ready?
Can you hear the hype in my voice? I'm so excited for Grumpy Cat. No, I'm not. Just when it couldn't get any worse than Kathy Lee and a Hoda, a cat is hosting Raw.
The cat is way better than them.
Oh, God.
Really?
The jokes.
All right,
the jokes. Okay.
Grumpy Cat. All right. Even if Grumpy Cat has been a little overexposed and just kind of played out at this point, Keith, go ahead. I won't even finish.
We constantly make the joke that the WWE is about 6 months behind on pop culture. Now they're just proving it. They're like, you know what, guys, we are. So let's bring on Grumpy Cat. We're gonna have the pop
Gangnam Style.
Yeah. Well, they did that 6 months later. Then we're gonna bring out the Pop-Tart Cat later, that Nyan Cat, and then everybody's gonna dance. God damn it.
Grumpy Cat though is semi-relevant though, because obviously the movie is coming out. Are they going to have the cat? Because in the movie, the cat talks. So you think the cat's probably going to talk. So we're going to have a talking cat. And I guess if we can have the Muppets, we can have talking cats on a wrestling show. You know what? I'm still pretty hyped up about it, okay? Because Todd Chrisley, that was a huge disappointment. So, I got to get amped up for this one.
Class, not
bass. But okay, let's take bets right now, because usually there's that one segment that a superstar interacts with the guest host. Who interacts with Grumpy Cat?
Ooh, this is a good one. Okay, I want people to tweet who they think Grumpy Cat's gonna interact with as well, because this is a good one. I'm gonna guess. Oh, God.
The Miz? Can it please be the combo of Miz, Hornswoggle,
it's gotta be The Miz, you're
please.
Right. The Miz is usually the go-to guy. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Because I can totally see him just go over really? Really? A cat?
Because the whole movie thing, too, so that works perfectly.
Yeah.
It's so sad that we're pausing right now, because I know we're thinking about how would that even work right now?
I already see it. There's going to be a Miz TV or something with Grumpy Cat, and you'll have Mizdow out there. We didn't even talk about
They're not going to bring Grumpy Cat in front of a live audience. Are you kidding me? No, they're...
Can it please like be like the kind type thing? It's just a cat, and then you hear like...
Do you think it's only going to be backstage segments?
Totally.
I think
they're going to bring the
cat
chill out in front of like 15,000 people all screaming. That sounds like the worst.
Starts
idea.
like scratching Lily Garden's ear or something.
It just runs out
like,
to the
Grumpy
crowd.
Cat, what do you have to say? No, bad idea.
Wow. A bad idea or the best idea?
Speaking of Miz, though, can we talk about, what is it, Miz Swoggle or whatever that was?
Yeah, that's a controversial thing because I don't know about you guys. When they came out, I loved it. I enjoy that stuff because what the hell? We already have a guy that's copying every move. So at least for this match, because I don't think it'll be a weekly thing. I think it was like they had, El Torito to face. So obviously they put Hornswoggle. It's a one-time thing and I loved it.
Yeah, as long as it's a one-time thing, it's fine. One of you made the comment when we were watching Raw that, like, Hornswoggle is doomed to feud with El Torito forever. Like, whoever has a match against the Matadors, that's who Hornswoggle is with that week because they have nothing else.
Exactly. It's like Batman and the Joker. They're just destined to fight each other forever.
Speaking of fighting forever, it's time for this week's...
All right, it's that time again. What time, you ask? Well, it's time for money to rain down in shot form. Money shot time. Now, this week's tweet of the week goes over to the old Reddit machine at r/squared circle, and it is from Mr. Timber Flynn, all one word. And it is, I like to imagine after they said, you could be the biggest monster in the WWE to Ryback, and cut to Kane, you could hear Everybody Hurts playing in the background.
I think it's the first time in months we legitimately laugh at a tweet of the week. And it wasn't even on Twitter, so you know what? Thank you, Keith, for that. I think it's more of a concept.
No.
Tweet of the week is a name.
Thank you, Timber Flynn, for that. Don't thank me. I'm just the squire. Timber Flynn is the man.
Thank you, Timber, for that, man. And hey, it's time that we give back.
Wait, is Squire? Hold on. Is it like Crier or Town Crier? I don't know.
No, is the Squire the dude that comes with the scroll and be like, hear ye, the notice from the king says.
No, that's the Town Crier.
Oh, okay.
I don't think any of us are experts about the medieval times, but you know what? So what I was going to get to is that we're just a couple of weeks away from Thanksgiving. After that, we got Christmas. So you know what? It's the time to give. And Ryan and myself, we love to give. And Keith, we sort of forced him to give to each and every one of you. We've grown exponentially thanks to your support. So we are announcing our next Byte That giveaway. You have an opportunity to win a free WrestleMania Bead Sprite. So for those that don't know what a Bead Sprite is, picture like a pixel art. So think of like a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, you know how they were like squares? It's very much like that, but turned to life. So yeah, you can look back at one of my old unboxing videos. There's a table and you can see 2 Bead Sprites there, courtesy of Gemso's Bead Sprites. Very important. You have to be from either the United States, Canada, Mexico, or the UK to participate, or at least the address for the winning person has to be from one of those places. The contest ends on December 2nd. The winner will be announced on the December 9th edition of the podcast, and then we'll be emailing the winner the day after. So yeah, go over there. We're going to be having some videos, some references, so you can check this out. Remember, it's free of charge. All you got to do is go to the website. You can hit the share button, hit a couple of things, and you're guaranteed to win this. So Keith, considering you're the person that, we got you to join us. You love the people, Keith. How are you feeling about this?
I'm excited. Yeah.
I can just feel that, man. And for a little bit more information, the estimated value of this is $34. It's 17 inches by 4.5 inches. So it's a pretty big
WrestleMania
item.
Logo, a classic WrestleMania logo.
You can go to our Twitter and see the picture of it. if you'd like
exactly.
to see.
And when you go to the website, you can also see it there, and it's free. I mean, it's not $9.99. It's free, so just head over to the website. You can also check out all of our other content on the website and the YouTube channel, which this week I'm going to be posting a video about what keeps you interested in watching the WWE. A lot of times you talk about, the Attitude Era is over and all that. We've done that within the past couple of weeks. So what is the one thing in particular that if you just had to point out, it keeps you interested? It'll be posted either on Thursday or Friday, so stay tuned to that. And Mr. McNulty, I know you got a video coming up pretty soon.
Yes, Juan, I'm actually going to be doing another discussion video this weekend. I won't give it all away, but the subject will be about Rusev's manager, Lana, so you'll want to wait this weekend to check that video out.
No, and the cool thing about these videos is that we definitely want to switch the podcast up, as you've heard in the past couple of weeks, so the responses in those videos are going to be brought up. And speaking of that, we got last week's videos responses, thanks to everybody that interacted. The first video we're going to be talking about is my Can Wrestling Be Cool video. So a little bit of context. We've talked about this previously. Wrestling has changed. It's not nearly as hot as it used to be. So can it be cool again? Is it ever going to be a thing where, you got a bunch of people holding up the signs? Or is it just going to be a thing that we love, but it's not nearly as popular as it used to be? So first off, Lunatic Fringe Reviews left a comment saying, I think wrestling can be cool again, but they need to turn it TV 14 in order for old school viewers to come back. But as long as PG kiddie garbage is still here, we are not getting it. He then proceeded to give out specific things about how they can make the program better. So they said edgier programming, better wrestling character stories, just letting wrestlers be more loose. John Cena sort of going back to his older character, and improving the Diva roster, different pay-per-view sets, which I definitely agree. I think that is one of the key things that I really miss from that era. And maybe even coming back with the brand split. So having said that, I want to take it to you, Ryan, first. Is there anything in this list that you would love to see actually happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it I don't necessarily agree with, but I think he makes some good points about, obviously better characters, better stories. I mean, you can always say they can do better, but, I think they've shown that direction, that they're trying to focus more on the characters, but I agree with those things. Also, like you said, the pay-per-view sets, I think, is a big deal at making each pay-per-view feel like a little more special. Right now, they just kind of put some props around, and it was nice when they had the whole set going, and I think that was better. My kind of counter argument to him, or at least my opinion, is that you don't necessarily need the TV 14 to have a good show. I think you can still be PG and have just as great of a show. I mean, even during SmackDown has pretty much always been PG, even during the Attitude Era, and people were fine with it. So there's ways to get around that. You can still have an adult show that's PG.
Exactly. It's never coming back. Let's be real here. It's fine, and it's fine the way it is. It doesn't need to be this edgy, Attitude Era style content. They can still do character development and build these great characters without having to rely on a TV rating. It's gone away. It's never coming back.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the whole TV 14 thing and the whole different pay-per-view sets. I love just having to wonder, or back when it was Backlash, you sort of knew what to expect from a set. With each pay-per-view, you were familiarized. And now it's always just, hey, we get a different video graphic.
I mean, another thing that I have to kind of say, even though thank you for your comment, by the way, but how funny is it that for years we're like, when are they going to end the brand split? When is it going to happen? And now that it's gone, it's like, oh, they could bring back the brand split.
That's something that could come in time, but I really just don't think they have the star power to do it.
I don't think it's another thing that doesn't need to come back, really.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a whole crop of young guys that they can build up, and if it gets to the point where there is too much star power, to build on Raw, I mean, they can always do it again. It's something they have in their back pocket, but right now it is completely fine the way that they do the shows.
And you got to keep in mind, they have way more programming now, because you got Raw, SmackDown, Main Event, Superstars, NXT. You got any pre-shows or any other random stuff that they can throw out exclusively on the network. So, there's many more ways than just having that brand split. So thanks for that, for those comments, man. They're pretty awesome. The next up is GGO 2 million or something. It's 2 and a ton of zeros, man. A ton of zeros.
It's 2 million.
Ryan's counting though.
It is 2 million.
2 million, I got it, man.
Put a comma in there, bro.
And I like this comment. It's interesting because he says turning TV 14 won't change the situation so much. Back in the 80s, it wasn't TV 14, and this is where WWE gained a lot of popularity and became pretty famous. During the Attitude Era, WWE gained more popularity because of their matches and edgy content. I've always asked myself this question: would the WWE have been able to succeed without TV 14 content? As for your question, I have no idea, but chances are even. We are entering a new era. Dean Ambrose seems pretty close to be the top guy, and signs such as basketball players doing the yes taunt shows that the WWE seem to be getting slowly a bit more attention. At the same time, for all the viewers they gain, they lose more, either because fans are nostalgic, because entertainment isn't always entertaining, because they're not innovative, or because to some, Cena is the champion, although it doesn't bother him. This also shows you there are more factors to the WWE than just losing viewers, so in my opinion, chances are even. Now this is very interesting because it's obviously a counter comment to what Lunatic Fringe said regarding the TV 14, and he also brings up the question, because we always talk about the Attitude Era and all that stuff, what would have happened if the entire Attitude Era were PG rating? We didn't get all the stuff with Sable and all that. Would it have succeeded? What do you think about this, Ryan? Do you think the TV 14 was necessary for the Attitude Era? Obviously, because of all the things that had happened, it's because of the TV 14. But do you think they could have creatively done things such as, the Sable, the sex content, tone that down and somehow still develop guys like The Rock and Stone Cold?
It's possible. I think if there was ever a time that they needed it, it was then, because they were directly competing with WCW and they were trying to outdo them on every level. So they actually had to look at a direct product and say, we need to do this to beat them. Now that's not necessary. So maybe it was at the time, but I don't think TV 14 is needed now. I guess you could argue that they could have, danced around that line and still maybe beat WCW. But I mean, they were neck and neck for quite a while. So I think any little thing that they did probably helped.
So quick question about this. He brings up that some people may be tuned away because Cena is the champion or always involved in that scenario. Obviously, Cena has a huge fan base. However, last week's Raw did not feature Cena, and it had a pretty good rating. So do you think that people in situations where John Cena is not overexposed, some of them actually come back?
I don't think immediately, but maybe over time those people will start to come back, and right now's the building time to do that.
1 week I really don't think makes the difference. You'd have to see over time. I don't even remember how ratings were when John Cena was away for a couple months with injuries. I don't remember if even that really hurt it. Because at the end of the day, when he comes back, the show's still built around him. You really don't know with the whole ratings things with Cena. I don't think there's ever a concrete answer.
Yeah, it's true. It's a very controversial thing because how do we know? We won't know until Cena is no longer on TV for like a year or something. He retires, and then we'll really be able to tell. Now, the next comment is from friend of the show, leaves some awesome comments, Pirate Hunter 316. Now, obviously, this person is very, very devoted, very passionate, so you can check out the YouTube video for everything that he said. But essentially, he's talking about the fact that what used to be cool isn't, and what used to not be cool now is. So, case in point, think of like a 22 Jump Street. There's a scene pretty much like that. Back in the day, nerds and TV and all that stuff were made fun of. Now, look at us. We talk about the fact that TV shows have overcome movies even. So, wrestling is sort of at that point. He makes the argument that back then, there were all the shirts and all that stuff because wrestling was cool, but now everything sort of flipped the switch. So I wonder now, do you think that it has to do sort of with WWE not really listening and sort of catching up with the times? We've talked about that in the past. And if so, do you think that the WWE, with the things they've done with Ambrose now and all that, they're sort of trying to undo the damage they've done?
They're getting there. I think they're doing more and more things right. We see a lot of the younger talent being pushed. A lot of the guys who wouldn't have been stars a couple years ago are now becoming the stars now. But maybe with a lot of things, I mean, we're just talking about Grumpy Cat hosting Raw.
Exactly.
And, when you got Brodus Clay dancing in the ring, doing Gangnam style dances. I know there's a couple, about a year ago now. But still, there are some things that are kind of behind the times with the way they do the show. So, yeah, I think that whole what's cool now wasn't cool before, or vice versa, definitely applies. And wrestling right now is not in that cool category.
Exactly. WWE right now is kind of like a snake shedding its old skin, where there's still a little bit of it left. Like you have the dumb dad jokes by Jerry Lawler. You have the grumpy cats. But the new things like the Wyatts and the Dean Ambroses are starting to come through. And maybe like this time next year, we'll be talking about how cool and relevant WWE is.
You got some deep comments this week, Keith, man. Like,
can Michael Cole be cool and relevant?
That's a good question. Will the WWE ever be cool while Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler are their commentators?
You know what? With the other question that Ryan brought up about social media in a couple minutes, I think I can pretty much not necessarily answer that, but I can provide my perspective on that. And yeah, thanks for everybody that interacted with that. Stay tuned to this week's video. And now I hand it over to Mr. McNulty, who brought up the question, did social media ruin wrestling? Did it?
All right. So we got a couple of comments from this video. And you can always share your thoughts either, in the comment section on YouTube. Send us a tweet. So anyway, I did a video this past weekend. Did social media ruin wrestling? So one response we got here is from Pack Leader 1215. He says, hey, if we've all been in conversations circles on the internet ruining wrestling kayfabe, whether it's forums or whatever, and the social sites sped up the destruction. So obviously for a long time, we've wrestling fans, the hardcore fans have talked on forums or whatever about what goes on behind the scenes. But he kind of says here that all the social media, all Twitter has kind of like enhanced that. So now everybody is kind of an internet smart. I mean, you got the the Husky Harris chants at when Bray Wyatt debuted,
yeah.
And you get a lot of those chants you would have never gotten 10 years ago about behind the scenes knowledge. For instance, even the CM Punk chants at AJ Lee, that probably wouldn't have happened 10 years ago.
That is an amazing point. Think about that. Just, we're so overexposed, and obviously everybody knows the breaking news. Wrestling is scripted, but the idea is that you perceive it to be real, or at least you buy into the product. But now when, Rusev and people like that have Twitter accounts, imagine Undertaker having a Twitter account saying, I'm going to rest in peace. Good night, everybody. That would sort of kill the character.
I think the biggest difference is that...
Can he please do that?
No. Okay. I can't remember where it was, but at some point, there was a story from Mick Foley that him and The Undertaker talked about Twitter, and Mick Foley was very, very against The Undertaker ever having a Twitter for that exact reason. But to go back to my point, is that I think the big difference between now and then is that wrestling is now a 24/7 thing, when back then it was just like a Monday night, and then eventually it was a Monday and a Thursday. Like, those characters, you saw them for 2 hours a night, and that was it. Now it's like, now they have the show, then they have the tweets between the show, then they're on Superstars, then they're tweeting on their way to SmackDown, and then interacting with fans. So it never really stops anymore. So it's very easy to get overexposed to characters now.
No, it's true, because back then there was so much curiosity about what happened. Like, I'll always remember when Kane got unmasked, chokeslam RVD, I just thought to myself, I can't wait for something else to come out. And, the WWE would just have the pictures. You would go on the website, but it wouldn't directly reference. It would make you want to tune into the show more. Now, you're guaranteed to get more information during the week, either, from social media, their website, YouTube, an exclusive. There's no there's no what if. There's no what if scenario. There's no guessing. It's very much handed to us now, and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not.
All right, well, the next comment, Pirate Hunter 316 working overtime, had another great comment on this video. So I will, I'll give an excerpt. I'll try and highlight his negative and positive points. So he said, did the internet kill wrestling? This is a difficult question to answer because there are so many positive and negative contributions that the internet has given to the wrestling industry. So I'm just going to highlight his negatives. Overexposure of wrestling. You can simply watch all the YouTube clips and get a gist of the WWE storylines. Let's see. Negativity. The internet tends to just be bathroom walls where everyone shouts and thinks they are right, and a lot of people overreact and panic. Does that sound like anyone we know? Smart IWC. WWE tends to not take any legitimate negative criticisms and paints a broad brush to anyone who doesn't like what is on TV as simple IWC smart marks that have no real idea to contribute to the wrestling industry. And the internet is a place to complain, which is not true. Lost to kayfabe.
It's pretty true, though.
I blame this solely on wrestlers for the lost on kayfabe. You look at guys like CM Punk, he came off like a jerk in the ring and in real life, and this is why I loved him, because he seemed real. I think maybe he just really is a jerk, though. I don't blame the internet but wrestlers for not trying enough to be themselves on TV and outside the ring. Times change, simply can't do the Undertaker gimmick in today's world because people want things to be grounded in reality. Let's see. Positives. Provides a voice, a place for people to vent and call it WWE for their stupid logic and openly praise them for their good work. So that's kind of a positive and a negative, I guess he's highlighting here. Sense of community, being part of something. History, you can learn about the history of wrestling. That's something maybe a lot of people wouldn't think about. Podcast, no internet, no Byte That podcast. Good point there.
Good call.
Let's see. Gives not so well-known wrestlers a chance. Guys like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan wouldn't be as big as they were if it wasn't for the internet passionately supporting them. That's a great point, actually. So, yeah, what do you guys think of those points? Any ones in particular I can highlight?
I think number 2 and the negative one is, even we are sort of very much prone to that because we see so much things on TV, and because we know all the things that we've just brought up, WWE has so much product and all this stuff, you become very attached to stuff. So when you see things, you can go online and everybody agrees. So, oh, this feud sucked. Oh, it was terrible. His debut was terrible, so he's going to flop. If he flops, he's going to get fired. If he's fired, he's never going to come here. Guess what? 5 minutes went by. Just let it go. Let the feud develop. Whatever it is, we tend to overreact to that a lot.
I definitely think the internet has created somewhat of like a hive mind of the wrestling fan base, where there's probably less diversity in thought because everyone kind of just groups up.
But at the same time, though, that's the vocal minority. Like, this is the stuff that we hear about all the time, but it's probably not the wrestling fan base. But
you can even look on Twitter, though, because you can say that about something like Reddit. Reddit squared circle is more of a vocal minority, but I would argue that a lot of wrestling fans are on Twitter. Obviously it's probably less than half, but it's probably a good amount.
Yeah, and I would think that the big problem for me is also that, say, I tuned out for 2 or 3 weeks to wrestling, right? And then I go to any website, doesn't matter if it's a forum, if it's a thread or something. If I base myself off of the negativity for a character that I don't know about, I'm going to eventually stigmatize that guy. So when I start watching wrestling, I'm going to have a negative perspective on that. So I think the problem is that because of the possibility of a hive mind, a lot of people that are sort of going in are going to come in thinking they know about this guy, which is like, guess what? Just watch the product and develop your own opinion. If you like something or not, if you like Grumpy Cat being on Raw or not, that's awesome. But watch and then find that out.
To kind of summarize everything that he said here, though, I think I know I left this on a comment for somebody in regards to the internet and wrestling, but it's very much like Triple H said about evolution, adapt or perish. So I think WWE had to adapt to the internet world, and some things are going to get lost and other positives. You know, he mentions the YouTube clips. Well, the YouTube clips are also pretty good for people to catch up faster and know what's going on in the show and actually become a fan who's following. And like he said about guys like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, guys who wouldn't have got a chance, 15 years ago are now getting more opportunities. So while some things are lost, there are new things to be gained from the internet.
Yeah, and even though we've kind of down-talked the whole, smart internet wrestling fan thing, at the same time, like Pirate Hunter said, it also gives a sense of community. It's a place that you can go to and know that you're with people that, love the product. You're kind of... It's like a happy place. Not everything is this, oh my god, did you see the Ryback this week? He was very bad. Sometimes it's just a fun gif, hey.
Who was that?
I don't know what that was. And then sometimes it's just a fun thing, hey, remember that time that Kane tripped? And here's a good gif of it. It's just fun little things like that.
That's one great thing. There's a gif of everything the second it happens.
Exactly. And then somebody will post that 2 years later, hey, remember that time that Kane just ate it on Raw Live? So there is good things that come out of it. And sometimes knowing more can be a positive.
Yeah, exactly. And two quick things I want to bring up. Number one is essentially the reason we brought up Byte That. The whole reason we have this podcast. It's not because we're wrestling experts. It's not because we're people in the industry. We're not. It's because a lot of times you look at these communities and you see so much negativity, and we just sort of went you know what? We enjoy the product. Yeah, there's been some downward spirals the past couple of months, but we try to look at the positives. That's one of the reasons that we don't talk about every single segment every single week, because we're not here to have an hour of negativity. We want to enjoy whatever the hell is on TV. And if there's maybe a bad episode, we try to pick out, this worked, and it could have worked a little bit better if they had done this or that. So that's one thing. The other quick thing I wanted to bring up is that I was watching Backlash 2009, man, and it was crazy. Not because of what was on the show, but because of Michael Cole. We're sort of making fun of him, and guess what? He cared about the product. He sounded like he was paying attention to the match. Not every 5 minutes I was getting a reference to the network or I was going to say tweet of the week, trending worldwide. It wasn't about all this stuff. You can join in on the conversation, the WWE Universe, all these things that they've created to promote. The match was actually the focus. They were bringing up backstories, references to the past, and now that's sort of a lost art, man. And I know it's not really his fault. It's WWE as a company, how they've changed. But as a closing thing for the podcast, I wanted to know, how do you guys feel about that? Have you looked at something from yesteryear before the social media stuff, and you sort of miss how that used to be?
It's a good question. I mean, if the commentator isn't caring about the match, then why should I? And, I don't care about tweeting about it if you don't make me care about it. So, I feel like they could have the best of both worlds, but they're just way too focused on getting you to interact, and they're not giving you anything. They're not giving you good reasons to interact when they're not putting the importance on the matches and things going on.
Exactly. It's interesting that you bring that up, because how many times have we said recently, oh, they completely blew over this awesome spot because they were talking to Florida Georgia Line or something like that. Not to make a very direct reference, but it almost feels like
to make a very direct reference. You're on notice, Florida Georgia Line.
Exactly. We coming for you. I'll see you at Tribute to the Troops. But it almost feels like the art of storytelling in wrestling is kind of dying thanks to social media, because now they're so focused on their $9.99s and their current trends that they're not really telling a story with every match.
This reminds me of something. Because they were in the UK and they didn't want to push the network because they didn't want to throw it in their face, we got a lot less network promotion, and Raw was pretty dang good. I wonder if there's a correlation
because there was no
between those two
worldwide trends because it was recorded. Yeah, that's a good point, Ryan.
Man, what do we got to bring up this at the conclusion of the podcast? This could be like a 30-minute
Here's
topic
the I got a conclusion for you. Taped Raw every week from now on. That's how you do it.
Yeah, you know what? You don't get rid of the arena. Just pipe in the crowd. Just you know what? Just have a little place of about 50 people taped. And get rid of Twitter. You know, we just figured out what WWE needs to succeed.
WWE
Triple
needs
H,
a
listen to this
laugh track.
podcast. We got the solution for you. So thanks to everybody that sent out those awesome comments. I mean, look at this. That effectively what Brian brought up, I would love to sort of mention next week, especially if you're here, which is what would have happened if wrestling sort of had these tape shows, not including SmackDown, because SmackDown is a whole different ballgame, which is now going to Thursdays. But what about Raw? Would that change things? Let us know. So, for everything else, Mr. McNulty, close out the show.
All right, well, we want to thank everyone once again for listening to this week's edition of Byte That. Before we go, as usual, I got the plugarinos to go through. So first, don't forget about our Bead Sprite giveaway. That's right, you can get that awesome WrestleMania logo Bead Sprite. And to enter into that, just make sure you're in either the US, Canada, Mexico, or the UK. And you can go to bytethat.com/giveaway where you can enter your email, and there's some other things you could do to get additional entries. So go and check that out. As always, check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. You can catch our podcast there, as well as iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. I'll have a video up on there this week involving Rusev's manager, Lana, so you'll want to check that out. And as always, our social media, Twitter is @ByteThatCast, and Facebook, facebook.com/ByteThatCast. That's all we got for you guys this week. We'll see you next time.